Folks, this is video number 2 in the playlist that's devoted to 3D Experience CATIA generative shape design. And I'm going to be talking about the point creation with the coordinates option. So when you go to a generative shape design, this is the main menu that you get at the bottom of the screen. And we're interested in the wireframe tab. And when you select the wireframe tab, one of the things that you can select is point. When you click on the point icon, this dialog box opens up, and there are several things in here that we would like to discuss. First one is this pull-down menu. There is a pull-down menu here, and the one that we want to discuss right now is the coordinates option. Okay, later on, we're going to do videos for these other cases too. The other thing is this padlock that we're going to be talking about, and then there is something called access system, reference point, etc. And then we move on. Let's do it through an example. So I'm going to start the generative shape design application right here. Right here, this is the generative shape design essentials, which is the stripped down version of generative shape design. So I'm going to click on this. A part opens up, and notice that this is the tab that I was talking about. If you select the wireframe tab, these are things that you're going to get on it. The specific one that we want to discuss is the point icon. Notice that there are several things buried in here, and these we're going to discuss in other videos. So you click on the point. Now, as soon as you do that, it creates a point at the global 000, which is right there, with respect to the global or absolute coordinate system. Now, for example, let me create a point that is maybe 1 inch, 1 meter to the right in the y direction. And let me make this thing maybe, yep, 0 in the x direction. So here's what happened. A point has been created, which is 1 meter along the x direction, y direction. And that's it. So I created a point there. You might say, okay, what now? Let me create another point. I'm going to create another one. So suppose for reference point, I select this point. So what happens immediately, it assumes that the coordinate system that we're discussing, it is in the absolute direction, but the origin of it is right there. And notice that here I can create another point. For example, I can put in the x direction 0.5. Okay. So it is using the global directions, but assuming that the origin of the global direction is right there. And then we say preview and okay. So notice that 2 points have been created. One was the original one in the global direction. The other one is also in the global direction. However, with the reference point being here, as if the global coordinate system was translated to this location, and then we created the point. Now, let me tell you why I did this thing. Because I want to create an access system, but its origin right there. Okay, so let me click on access system. The origin of it, instead of being global origin 000, I'm going to create this. So what it does, it creates an access system for me, okay, aligned with the global directions, but at this point as the origin. Okay, why did I do this? Suppose I click on the point now again. Notice that it is using the access system 1, this one that I created as the access system, which happens to be, by the way, parallel to the original one, but the origin of it is at that location. So now when I say, for example, let's hypothetically say x equal to 0.5, y equal to 1, and I'm going to make this thing actually, I'll make this thing to, how about making that 1? So this preview, so this 1, 1, and 0 is with respect to that access system because it has already been created. And then we say, okay. So now I have, this is the point that I created. Okay, this is the point that I created. Now, if I don't want this thing to be my current access system, you can put the cursor here, right click, access system object, and you say set as not current. You click on it, notice that this becomes dashed line. So when I use coordinates, it's not going to be with respect to this coordinate system anymore, because it's not the current one, but it's the global. For example, let's do another point. Notice that, cancel that, sorry. Let's do another point. Notice that what it does, it takes my original numbers, whatever they were. So I'm going to make these 0. Okay. But with respect to the global coordinate system, because this is not current anymore. Now, whatever I put in here is not going to be with respect to this. It's going to be with respect to this global one. For example, if I say x equal to, let's say, 2, and y equal to 0, and z equal to 0, so what it does, it creates a point right there. With respect to the global, x equal to 2, y equal to 0, and z equal to 0. And say OK. All right. Now, there's something else in here that you may find interesting. You click on the point one more time. Notice that it's with respect to the global absolute, no problem. It's x of 2 and y of 0 and z of 0. These numbers are because of the last point that I created at these coordinates. But there is another icon here. There is another checkbox here which says, what is your reference point? Now, the reference point says default origin, which is right there. But if I want to change that, for example, I want to use this point to be my reference point, I can select this. Notice that what happens is that it pretends that the access system was located at that location with these points as coordinates. Notice, with respect to global XYZ, default, reference point sits right there, and now this is going to be the origin of that global coordinate system because I chose it. And then x of 2 and y of 0 and z of also 0. We say OK. Okay. Now, so what happened is that we know what the access system does, what the reference point does, and of course, these we know. There's something else that you should be aware of, and that's that padlock. Let's say I create a line here. I create a line going, for example, from this point to that. We haven't done lines, but I want to show you something here. And let me go ahead and create another line, for example, another line, but this one is point and direction. So I create a point here, create a point at global 0, 0, 0 right there. So I'm going to make all these 0. And direction is z direction. And I'll make a length of 1. Okay, so what I've done here is the following. I've created a line, 2 lines, one going from this point to that point, the other one going from this point that I, point and direction, like that. Now, suppose I go and try to create a point here. If this is, first of all, absolute coordinate system, global origin, no problem. But if this padlock is open, not locked, what I can do is I can go and select a line. You see that? I can select a line. And as soon as I select a line, it changes from coordinates to something else on a curve. However, cancel. Let's go back here. Let's go back here to a point. If I lock that with coordinates, I will not be able to select the line. I can select points, but not line. For example, I can select a point here. For example, that point. I can do that, but not a line. Okay. And then you can input these things in it. The moral of the story is that this last slide is telling you what that thing does. All right, folks, so this takes care of point coordinates.